St. Petersburg, Russia. Now there's a place that I never thought that I would visit in my lifetime. I remember growing up as a child and as a teenager that Russia was a very scary place. It was a place with nuclear warheads that we might go to war with. And so imagining myself going there as a tourist just wasn't in the picture. But thank you for joining me today with Scatter Travel TV, and I'm Debbie Gerber, and I am in St. Petersburg, Russia, on one of the cruise stops, one of the ports that we stopped on the Baltic cruise. I drew this map so that you could see where the Baltic Seas area is and where St. Petersburg, Russia is in relation to the others. We started in Copenhagen, Denmark, went to Estonia, then up to St. Petersburg, Russia, then to Finland, then to Sweden, then back to Denmark. And so it's just kind of a circular tour up through the Baltic Seas. St. Petersburg sits just kind of back in. Now there's some things to consider when you go into Russia and several other cruise ports. One of the questions that you have to ask yourself is, and find out before you travel, is at different cruise ports, what legal documents or what arrangements do you have to have made in order to get off the ship? In St. Petersburg, you cannot get off the ship unless you're either taking a tour that is through the ship, or if you have gotten a special tourist visa before you leave home and made an arrangement with a licensed Russian tourist agency there to take you on a tour. You're not allowed just to get off and walk around or get off and arrange a tour there unless you do those things. So make sure that you know the rules before you go. You want to make arrangements for your tours ahead of time. Even if you're doing just the ship tour, you've got to make it ahead of time because there are a limited number and they do sell out because it is the only way that people can get off and see St. Petersburg. Most of the people do go on tours there. Once you decide whether you're going to take a private tour or a ship tour, then you can start to look at the different tours that are offered. In St. Petersburg, we found out that we had plenty of time, so we chose to take two different tours in St. Petersburg. We took a morning tour to St. Catherine's Palace, and we took an afternoon tour of downtown St. Petersburg in that area. So you can take more than one tour depending on the time. Just make sure if you're on a private tour that you know when you're going to be able to get off the ship and then how soon you have to be boarded again before the ship leaves so that you don't miss the ship.
In St. Petersburg, the ship, we bought a tour. Actually, we had two. The morning tour was great. The afternoon tour was over an hour late for the bus coming. So, you know, there's hang-ups that happen on tours and with, you know, your trip. You just have to take it as it comes, have a smile on your face, make a few jokes. Understand that you're here to see things and hope that you get to see things, but you still live in a world that's not perfect and things go wrong. Our bus got stuck in traffic that was supposed to pick us up, so we had to wait for another bus to be delivered. A long wait, good tour, worth the wait.
As our tour group got closer to the Catherine Palace entrance, it was really an interesting experience. There was a little band there playing, and they would ask people as they came what countries they came from. And as they would give their answers, they would play that country's national anthem, a little piece of it. And I'll tell you, what an amazing thing to hear the United States national anthem being played in St. Petersburg, Russia, before we entered the Catherine Palace. The Catherine Palace is kind of a robin's egg blue with white and gold on it. It is huge. It is gorgeous. It has been constructed over several different periods of time and had additions made to it. The grounds to Catherine Palace are just beautiful and well groomed. As we walked into Catherine Palace, we went up what was called the main staircase. The main staircase was actually not built or added again until 1861 because of the German invasion. They destroyed most of the Catherine Palace. It was even burnt at one point. Now the main staircase that was built is built of white marble. It is absolutely gorgeous, and all the walls are white with moldings, and then they have these decorative vases and dishes that are made of Chinese and Japanese porcelain. And there's a clock in there that's gorgeous. It's really quite impressive, just the whiteness of it. And by far one of the most impressive rooms is the Great Hall. I love the Great Hall. The floors are shiny. You can see the reflection of the windows and yourself in the floors, and it's inlaid wood. Beautiful walls. The walls have these carvings. They have little cherubs in them and leaves in them, and it's all gold leafed. It is so amazing. And then the ceilings are all painted. Reminds me of some of the great cathedrals. Everyone deserves a palace. This is the Catherine Palace. Isn't it gorgeous?
Louder.
Gold leaf everywhere. This is the Catherine Palace.
In
Russia. Just outside of St. Petersburg. Gold leaf everywhere. I could just see balls of yesteryear going on, and with music and with dancing and with fancy dresses and carriages pulling up with all the dignitaries of the area. This must have been a fabulous place to have been, and still is quite a place. I've never been, and probably never will be, in a room with that much gold. Some of the things that I found really interesting about this was there were doors on either end of all the rooms. And so if you stood at one end, at the far end of this palace, you could look straight through all the doors all the way down. And that was really cool. Had a lot of mirrors, and then it had these Dutch tile fireplaces. And the tiles were that Delft tiles, and they were gorgeous. And they had these little fireplaces in some of the rooms. They were quite large, actually, and really pretty. The paintings were amazing. Like I said, they reminded me of cathedral paintings, very detailed, very beautiful. A lot of them were in colors, bright colors, and some of them were in the darker colors, and then there were some that were in the whites and the golds with just a slight bit of coloring in them. But a lot of them seemed to show like victories or battles and that kind of thing. The dining rooms were just as opulent, with great cakes that would run lengths of tables for their parties, and their dishes were gorgeous. And the fun part was, if you got invited to dinner, you got to take home your dishes. So it was quite a thing. I suppose dish collecting would have been something that you would have wanted to have taken up in that day. But just seeing the table settings in this room, you'd have thought that the rooms were gaudy or just overdone or ugly with the amount of gold and scroll work and all this stuff on the walls. But I found it to be actually quite peaceful and beautiful. The artistry in it is just unmistakable. The dining rooms came in the gold. They also had one that was a green room with white moldings that was quite neat. The Amber Room is probably one of the most famous rooms in the Catherine Palace, and a reason to go see it. This room is constructed of panels made of amber. It was originally done, and it had these huge panels with thousands and thousands of little pieces of amber fit together to make these beautiful wall panels. And then when the Nazis came in, when Germany came in, it was dismantled and taken out of Russia. They do believe that it is still somewhere in Germany, but nobody knows the actual location of it, as it was lost. It was recreated. They went in and recreated this entire room from photographs that they had of that artistry work done. And in 2003, it was reopened to the public. Although this picture was taken a lot earlier because you're no longer able to photograph the Amber Room, as I was not able to do as I was there. So I got this from a public domain, this picture. You can see that one of the things that they do to protect the floors is that you have to wear these little booties on your feet. So everybody's shuffling around in these little booties like you'd wear for new construction. And it keeps the floors nice. So you will have to put those on your feet to help conserve these beautiful floors. One of the things that really distinguishes the Catherine Palace are these beautiful bald little towers on top of it, and the beautiful gardens behind it. It's got walkways and gardens and pathways that are just beautiful, and you could spend quite a bit of time doing that too. As we left Catherine Palace, we past a shopping area just down the street, and it was really fun. Everyone had a good time shopping as quickly as they could before the tour moved on. One of my favorite churches, and what I expected to see when I went to Russia, when we got to this one, fulfilled my dreams of what I'd see in Russia. This is the Church on Spilt Blood, and it is covered in these mosaic tiles and enamel. It has these spires and these balls on it that are decorated, and it just really reminds me of what you'd see in Russia. It has such interesting architecture. As well as across the street from that was a little bazaar, a little market. And in that market, we bought a lot of our souvenirs. Now, one of the things with the souvenirs that we found in St. Petersburg is that they would take dollars. And they were great. They would just tell you the exchange rate and, give it to you on a calculator and show you how much it would be by the exchange rate. So they were very easy to work with and buy. It was one of the places that we ran into these little dolls. Like, we call them nesting dolls. They're called mishkas, I think. And they're just these little dolls that are one inside another. They're made out of one block of wood and then carved out so that they come in all sizes and they just fit together. Some of the little ones were so tiny that, you could barely even see them. Another of the things that really reminded me of Russia, probably from a bygone era, but they're still there, are these speakers on the edges and ends of the buildings. Like, they would make announcements in the streets all the time. And that reminded me of something that I would have thought back from my childhood, that I would have thought of Russia. As well as very drab buildings. Even the McDonald's there, and by the way, there was a McDonald's there, was kind of drab and just had this small sign instead of the great big arches. So other than a few really colorful buildings, I thought that for the more part the architecture was pretty, but it was fairly drab. A tour of St. Petersburg for the city tour is well worth it. There are some beautiful buildings and beautiful architecture, a lot of history in St. Petersburg, Russia. They have some really fabulous statues and artwork. There is the Hermitage Museum. That is a must-see. There are thousands and thousands of exhibits and things in history in that museum that you would want to see. Just going through the streets, like I said, the architecture is magnificent, considering especially when these buildings were built. And the cathedrals are fabulous. The gates to the city are famous, and there's like an arch thing here, and so there are many things to see. St. Isaac's Square was fabulous. It had a lot of things on it.
We're here in St. Petersburg, Russia. We're at the square with the St. Isaac's Church with its gold domes. It's a beautiful place in kind of a drab city. I was surprised there wasn't more color. I don't know what I expected, but this is not as colorful as I thought it would be. But very, very interesting place to visit. Someplace I never thought I would be in my lifetime. St. Petersburg, Russia.
I wanted to share just a little bit of the countryside. I thought the countryside was very peaceful and very pretty. There was an area that had these air vents sticking up, which are little dugouts where they store their fruits and vegetables that they grow. And their country housing area was fascinating. The rail system was quite well done through the country, as well as having a tram system in the downtown. It was heavy traffic going through St. Petersburg, and I was glad that we were on a bus where we could just look out the window and enjoy it while someone else worried about the traffic. The traffic, there was so many cars downtown, though. One fascinating thing is that they park in double rows, side by side, for their parking during the day. St. Petersburg was fascinating right up to and including the ironwork on its bridges. Please join us again at Scatter Travel to help you pre-plan by showing you fascinating places to go. We would love to have you come to scattertravel.tv and share your experiences, ideas, and comments with us there.